arrive with enormous amounts of power, like atomic divine power. Like we're like horses, we're like galloping into life. We're just ready. It's like the universe is going to hand over the baton to these people who are then going to flourish and blossom, and you're going to just, you know, I mean, you have all the information in you, you're ready to be reflected, you're ready to be loved and nurtured, and you just are like a bush, like a flower. It will grow by itself if it's nurtured and loved and taken care of. It's quite simple. The universe is very clever. When there's abuse, and I mean not just sexual, but I'm also physical, you know, there's denial, abandonment, rejection, just shit basically, that's poured onto this little piece of innocence, this incredible divine piece of power which is so innocent and vulnerable and ready to become something. The breaker switch goes off, and it's a sort of eviction. Like you have this house and you're tossed out of your home because now all of a sudden you have to become something. You have to create an armor to survive an impossible situation for a young child. So I'm going to talk about what happened to me, and I hope that it can help illuminate your own path, or sort of unravel some of the stuff that you might be going through yourself on this journey to sort of becoming whole, you know, coming home. When this piece of divinity is in any way infringed upon or poisoned, and I think it's poison when people do that to innocence, then it fragments. And I'm going to talk about what happened to me. So my recurring images, the me I've known is this thing that lies on the bottom, literally like it disappeared to the bottom of the ocean. It's just lying there and it's looking up at the world. It has no power. And then and in actually a ceremony, one of the ceremonies I had at home, I'm actually in a cave, like sitting right back in a cave, and in one of the ceremonies the cave opens, and I can see myself, I'm just huddled up in there. Then there's a child that was abused and molested. Now she has all the power, because the minute that happened, she creates a contract with this evil predator, and she needs love, and she thinks this is the adult, and this is the person that's my parent. I've been handed off to the universe, to this person. You know, the universe would never hand me off to somebody evil, right? And so she builds a relationship with this person and either makes it okay, but arranges it so that it works. And in my case, it was it's almost like a love connection, because wow, if they're abusing me, they're my parents, they must love me. This must be something okay with this. You make them okay. Which is pretty fucking awful, but you know, you got to survive. So I made them, and that was the thing that was driving. I made them okay now. So the child is in control, because the child has built the contract with an adult who's an evil predator. Now, for me to survive, I have to build an armor, right? So out of that, because I have to become an adult and I have to survive in the world of this horrific world, I then split into two people. One is this sassy, yes, everything's okay, let's get on with life, I'm gonna go conquer the universe, I'm gonna save, what the fuck. It's all bright and because it has a lot of energy to try to cover what's going on. And then I had this armed toddler who's terrified, who's on the run. So it's an incredible fragmentation that happens, and that's why I say it's about becoming whole. And that's why I could never get to it, because my true self had no power, was basically switched off. My child, who was basically her soul, I mean, you literally get evicted. They take your power. So my power was owned by these evil predators who I completely had walled off in order not to survive, because, you know, it was horrible. And so in order to survive, I built this facade This high, zappy, I'm going to take care of the universe, I'm going to take care of everything. No power, basically just empty shells, no content. There was just like noise, there was just energy, there was just panic, fueled by panic and terror. And then this kid, you know, toddler child who's just terrified. And it became very apparent to me in two very powerful dreams at Niue Rao. The way she did it was beautiful, and it is all about power. They take your power. What does that mean? That means you don't grow or blossom into the most incredible, powerful thing, whole human being that you are. You can't love, you can't do anything because you are kidnapped and you are owned by something that happened in some very early stage of your life. So in my dream, the great Marusa was like, okay, you can have power. Here you are, this incredible apartment in New York. I don't live, I live in a tiny studio. Here, you know, floor to ceiling windows, you can have beautiful, I'm looking from this incredible Italian kitchen, I've got my big meditation, I've got a fire, it's beautiful. But, she says, right now, you're working with a client who's very wealthy. And you think that you own that apartment. I mean, I'm designing it, I own it. I don't. He owns it, he has the power. I, as part of my strategy for survival as a child with no power, thinks that if I give people power, and I mean usually broken men, which is what I grew up with, and make them look good and make them okay, then I have power. And this is an incredible delusion. It's the delusion of a terrified child that's strategizing to survive in an untenable situation, right? So that I'm still it's in my brain, right? And then the other thing she showed me was how it worked was that my father, and we were both trapped, my mother and myself, because we were both victims of the same, although, you know, whatever, but we were both victims. It's a very clear scene where he is, he comes home and he goes, I don't have papers, that's the truth, I can't work. And what he does is, and it's not actually what happened, he worked with my mother's brothers and he did pretty well, but he was, you know, part of that company. But what was happening was he created an atmosphere of victimhood and pity. And then what happened is that when we both went up to him to sort of like make him feel better, a sheet slips off and his dick's revealed. It's like gross. What it says is, by us infantilizing him and pitying him, we have to make the abuse normal. He's not a monster. He's this little man who's like has no power. It's like, you know, and therefore it's okay that he abuses you. It's like fucking insane. It's beyond fucking insane. So it's very clever how survival happens when potential is damaged, and that's sexual abuse, physical abuse. Another thing that was really interesting is once they take your power, they can also shut down your emotions. So I had no access to rage, I had no access to anger, to anything. I had no access. I didn't know if I was happy, if I wasn't happy. I was just surviving. And access to emotions is absolutely paramount because it tells you what the fuck is going on. It's a navigational tool. It's like being in the ocean with no compass. You can't fucking see where you're going if you can't know emotionally what's going on. If you're feeling this is wrong and you can't say this is wrong, that's a problem. You know, if you could say, no, I can't have that emotion. I literally remember thinking, oh my God, you know, I want to kill someone, this is so bad. And then I thought, no, I've got to kill myself because I'm the one that's wrong. And that's how they make you feel. That's how this whole thing works. They capture your soul. They own your power because you have to give it to them because you're so little. It's a really evil thing. I mean, it's not just, oh, he's got an issue. No, this is evil. If I take a child's power and paralyze and sterilize them, really, because that's what I'm doing. I'm refusing them their life. I'm refusing them their divinity and the huge power and the blossoming that they can become. So I think that's really, really important. Again, and what's also very interesting, so it's all about power. So in ceremony, one of the most difficult ceremonies I had. I think it'd be the last one where I'm like, all my kids are coming out from all these horrendous predators. I was living like in some kind of kids' whorehouse. It was awful. Was the third ceremony when I had to leave the Maloka. Like, why? Because she showed me, you know, that I had this huge office in New York, and my name was in all the buildings. It was like here, you know, I was strutting around. It was like great, and I didn't want it. I didn't want the power, which meant my child was still in control, was still being owned by the predator. To have my power, I'd have to reveal that motherfucker. All of them, actually. I had to leave them alone. It was so unbearable to have power. I mean, are you serious? Yeah, I'm fucking serious. This is how bad it is. And how clever and manipulative and seductive and subtle. So, and it's always distracting you, you know. Just go do it, just, you know, go be free, you know, go be who you are. You can't fucking be who you are when you're basically paralyzed by shit that happened and you're fragmented. And I think the advertisers must know that, because they're saying, always saying you shit because you want to be distracted. You don't want to see what actually happened. I don't. And that's why it's so difficult to get to it, because it's so subtle and complex. And you really have to be almost like a forensic scientist to keep saying, what is this? What's going on? What's going on? I had no idea, by the way. So, and it's only, again, through explosions of the, you know, the ayahuasca and really the decision to say, I want to die. And I don't mean I want to die. I mean, I want this over. A commitment to, like, I am not gonna live this life in powerlessness. Because that's why I was taught, you know, if you're powerless, you're powerful. Because you look after us. And we have the power. So hurry up and be powerless and coy and sweet and a sexual object for us. Because then you get to be seen. And someone gives a shit about you. Awful. Absolutely awful. And equally awful to recognize that that's who you truly are. I mean, it's not who you truly are, but it's what was built around all of this. It wasn't like this lovely family that really wanted to take care of you and you mattered and they wanted your well. No, no. He wanted to own, or me, because I was like, you know, whatever, the most terrified. He could use me to live his life. And so, yeah, so it's just, I think you just have to get a whole picture of how this thing works and understand and have enormous compassion for yourself, for who you are, because under all of the facade, and I actually sketched it, I wish I had a picture, I have sketches of it. What I built was like it's being woven by them. It was an extension of them. What was built was an extension of the trauma. It wasn't ever me. And now I have to figure out, not figure out, but if you've not used a muscle of yourself in 100 years, then it's got to learn how to walk. It's got to learn how to, oh, you know, well, who am I? What do I do? It knows it, but it doesn't really trust it that well much, because it's like, you know, when you collapse something, when you dismantle a whole kind of machine, you know, that new thing is like a new bud. You've got to kind of sprout it and begin to learn how to be it. And it's very scary, because at the end of the day, you had all these attachments to all these things that said that there was love and that you existed in this kind of cauldron of stuff, of people and attitudes and beliefs, and it was all nothing. It was all absolutely nothing. And so that in itself is something you need to integrate and understand, like, because your brain goes, oh, before, no, before was nothing. There might be nothing now, but there was really nothing before. It was a facade, it was shut down, and it was like a puppet that just functioned and was being basically led by this terrified 4-year-old who'd been caught in a very dark place by some very evil people. So I think we all need to rejoice, because it's a pretty amazing thing that we can actually do it. We just have to commit to the incredible love within us of who we are, and to commit to light. And you know, it seems in retrospect, oh my God, but it's not that bad. It's not that terrifying or awful. I think it's difficult for the child that's still trapped. So she suffers, but eventually that will go, because she will go and be completely integrated. So lots of love and lots of compassion, and yeah, rock on.